Driven by envy, a stepdaughter plots to drive her father's new wife away, but as secrets unravel, she discovers a shocking truth that changes everything. Amber Hartley stood by her bedroom window, arms crossed tightly across her chest as she watched her father Raymond laugh in the garden with his new wife Celeste. To outsiders it was a picture-perfect family moment, but for Amber it felt like a betrayal dressed in lace and pearls. Her father had only been widowed for a year when he met Celeste, and now here she was, moving into their estate as if she'd always belonged. Amber, 17, sharp-tongued and fiercely loyal to her late mother, refused to believe this stranger could ever replace her. Celeste, elegant and composed in her early 30s, never raised her voice, never pushed back. That infuriated Amber even more. It made her seem untouchable. Her glowing brown skin, soft wavy black hair and almond-shaped eyes didn't fit the image of a villain, but Amber was sure there was something dark underneath. That night Amber made a silent vow. Celeste wouldn't last long in this house. Whatever secrets she was hiding, Amber would dig them out and use them to tear her father's illusion apart. Amber didn't waste time. She started observing Celeste with cold precision. Every movement, every word, every phone call. Her stepmother's overly polite demeanor grated on her nerves. Amber was convinced it was fake, too polished, too perfect. She began snooping. Celeste had one locked drawer in her study. Amber tried the keys in the house. None worked. That only fueled her determination. She even followed Celeste to her charity work downtown, expecting to find something out of place. But everyone there loved her. They called her an angel, a blessing, a miracle. It made Amber sick. Back home, she noticed her father becoming more distant. He used to spend his evenings with Amber, sharing stories about her mother, watching old movies. Now he was wrapped in Celeste's spell. It stung. Worse, Celeste never tried to bond with her. No real effort, just passive smiles and hollow kindness. Then came the first clue, a late-night phone call. Amber overheard Celeste whispering, "No, she doesn't suspect anything yet." Her heart pounded. Who was Celeste talking to? What secret wasn't she supposed to suspect? Amber had no idea that her search would eventually uncover more than she could handle. Amber knew she needed proof. A whisper wasn't enough to expose Celeste, so she waited, she watched. Every night she noted where Celeste went, what she did, what she wore. It felt like war, and Amber was ready to fight. One morning Celeste left her tablet charging in the kitchen. Amber seized the opportunity. Her fingers trembled as she unlocked it using a lucky guess, her father's birthday. To her surprise, there were no suspicious messages or photos, but one folder stood out labeled LM, password protected. Amber tried variations of names, dates, even the name of their estate. Nothing worked. She shut it quickly before Celeste returned. Frustrated, she began digging through old photos and family documents. That's when she found something strange. A faded photo of Celeste, much younger, standing next to her father years ago. The photo was hidden behind a book in her father's study. Her blood ran cold. Celeste had known her father before, but he always claimed they'd met by chance at a conference last year. Why lie? What else was he hiding? The war wasn't just against Celeste anymore, it was against her father too. Amber confronted her father with the photo. "You lied," she hissed. Raymond looked shaken. "Where did you find that?" he asked, avoiding her eyes. She pressed him. "Why did you say you only met her a year ago?" He sighed heavily. "Because I didn't think you'd understand," then he explained. Years ago, Celeste had been a young assistant during one of his business trips. They'd shared a brief tragic romance right before he met Amber's mother. "I never stopped thinking about her," he admitted. Amber felt betrayed on every level. Her father had mourned her mother, yes, but how deep could that grief have been if he never forgot another woman? Celeste wasn't just a stepmother, she was the ghost of a past love. Her resentment deepened. Not only had Celeste infiltrated their family, but she had always been lurking in the background of their lives, waiting, watching. Amber was more determined than ever. She didn't trust her father's story, and she knew Celeste wasn't innocent in this. She had a plan, Amber was sure of it, and now she'd uncover it, even if it destroyed what was left of their family. Amber started noticing things going missing. Her favorite necklace, a gift from her mother, vanished. A book her mom wrote notes in was suddenly gone from her room. At first she thought she was losing it, but then Celeste started making subtle comments. "You should really take better care of your things." It felt like psychological warfare. Amber accused her stepmother, but Celeste denied it with calm, sad eyes. "Why would I take anything from you?" she asked softly. "I've only ever wanted peace." Amber didn't buy it. One afternoon she rummaged through Celeste's closet when she was out and found her necklace tucked inside a jewelry box. Her heart raced. She had her proof. She snapped a photo, but before she could leave, Celeste walked in. Neither spoke at first. The tension was suffocating. Celeste didn't yell or cry, she simply said, "You don't understand what's happening here." Amber scoffed. "I understand enough. You're manipulating everyone," Celeste replied, her voice flat. "One day you'll see the truth, but you might not like it." Amber left shaken. Was that a threat or a warning? The house grew colder, not in temperature but in energy. Conversations became fewer, glances sharper. Amber barely spoke to her father. Celeste remained unbothered on the surface, but her silences were now heavier, more intentional. Amber could feel it. A quiet war was reaching its peak. She began feeling watched. Her door would sometimes be slightly ajar in the morning, though she was certain she closed it at night. She started locking her drawers. In her search for leverage, Amber discovered a small leather diary wedged behind a cabinet in the guest room. The pages weren't signed, but she recognized the handwriting. It was Celeste's. The entries were dated over the past year, detailing emotional frustrations and cryptic mentions of someone named L. "I promised I wouldn't say a word to him," one entry read, "but she deserves to know. If she finds out another way, it'll ruin everything." Who was she? And what secret was Celeste hiding on her father's behalf? Amber photocopied the pages and replaced the diary exactly where she found it. Her mind spiraled. Was Celeste protecting her father, or hiding something far more sinister? The mystery grew deeper, and Amber's certainty began to crack with doubt. Determined to dig into Celeste's history, Amber tracked down a woman who had appeared in the background of one of Celeste's old photos. Marina, a former co-worker of her stepmother's from years ago. Posing as a curious family friend, Amber met Marina at a small cafe. When Amber brought up Celeste, Marina's smile faltered. She was complicated, she said. Brilliant but broken. There was a lot of pain behind that smile. Amber pressed further, and Marina eventually revealed that Celeste had once been pregnant. The father, she never told anyone. One day she just vanished. When she returned months later, she never mentioned the child again. Amber's world shifted. Could it be her father? The idea sent a shiver down her spine. If Celeste had once been pregnant by her father, and Amber never knew, did that mean she had a half-sibling somewhere? Was that the real reason Celeste had come back, not for love, but for something else, something buried in the past? Amber returned home shaken. Her suspicion was no longer about hating Celeste. Now she was chasing a truth she feared would destroy her. Amber confronted her father again, pushing him harder than ever. This time he didn't lie. He looked exhausted as he admitted it. "Yes, Celeste was pregnant. And yes, I knew. I asked her to end it. I wasn't ready. I was young, stupid, and terrified." Amber's stomach twisted. Did she keep the baby?" Her father's lips tightened. "She said she lost it." "I believed her. We never spoke again after that." Amber was stunned. So many emotions crashed into her at once: rage, sorrow, confusion. Her father, the man she idolized, had walked away from a child, perhaps even a sibling she never knew existed. And Celeste, what had she done? Lied or lived with grief all this time? The war Amber waged no longer felt righteous. It felt hollow. She wasn't the avenger of her mother's memory anymore. She was just another person tangled in secrets no one was brave enough to face, and yet she couldn't stop now. Something still didn't add up. Amber's thoughts raced for days. She became obsessed with the idea that the child might still be alive. She dug through Celeste's old records, email logs, donation receipts, anything. Then one day she found it. A recurring transfer to a private school in a neighboring city, made monthly for the past 12 years. From Celeste's account, Amber visited the school under the guise of a volunteer. There she saw him, a boy named Elias. He was 12, polite, quiet, and bore an unmistakable resemblance to her father. Her heart thudded in her chest. She didn't need a DNA test. She knew. That evening she couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Celeste hadn't lied about the baby. She had protected him, raised him in silence, never demanding anything, never even seeking acknowledgement. Amber's world began to shift. This wasn't a woman who'd come to destroy her family. It was a woman trying to reconnect, carefully, quietly, and without vengeance. And Amber had spent the last months trying to tear her down. Amber's guilt consumed her. Every cruel word, every plan, every hateful stare, she replayed them in her mind like punishments she couldn't escape. She thought about the necklace, the diary, the eavesdropping, and how none of it was Celeste's fault. But it was too late. Her father had found the printed pages from Celeste's diary in her room. He was livid. "You went through her things. You invaded her privacy," he shouted. "Is this how your mother raised you?" Amber broke down. "She lied. She hid a child. Your child." Celeste entered the room just then, calm as always. But this time her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I never wanted to destroy this family. I only wanted to see if it could survive the truth." And with that, the fragile structure Amber had clung to for so long, of being right, of protecting her family, shattered. She was left in the ruins of her assumptions, wondering whether there was any way back from what she had done. The house was suffocating with silence. After Celeste's revelation, no one spoke for 2 days. Her father retreated into his office, locking the door for hours. Celeste kept to the guest room, no longer occupying the master suite she once shared with Raymond. And Amber was paralyzed. Shame was a new, bitter flavor in her mouth. She thought confronting the truth would give her clarity, but it only brought a deeper confusion. She still didn't know Celeste's full story. Why had she hidden Elias all these years? Why now? Why come back? Late one night, Amber knocked softly on Celeste's door. For the first time, the woman didn't offer a smile. She looked exhausted, hollow, but she let Amber in. "I never hated you," Celeste said quietly. "I just didn't want to replace what you lost." Amber nodded. "Then why didn't you tell the truth from the beginning?" Celeste stared into the dim light. "Because your father didn't want you to know. I gave him time. I thought he would, but when he didn't, I decided to stay. I wanted Elias to know his roots. But I didn't want to destroy what little family you had left." Amber realized then, Celeste wasn't the enemy, but trust once broken isn't easily rebuilt. Amber couldn't sleep. She kept turning over everything in her mind. Her resentment hadn't come from nothing. It came from grief. Grief over losing her mother, grief over losing her father to someone else. But what if that grief had blinded her? What had she missed? She searched again through the drawer where she'd found the diary, and this time she discovered a hidden envelope. Inside were letters addressed to Raymond, written over the years by Celeste. They were never opened. Dozens of them. Amber read each one with trembling hands. Celeste had written when Elias was born, when he started walking, when he got sick and almost died. Each letter was a piece of a mother's desperate attempt to keep a connection alive with a man who had abandoned her and their child. And every letter had gone unanswered. Amber was floored. Her father had chosen to silence this part of his life, not just from Amber but from himself. She felt her anger return, not at Celeste but at Raymond. He'd let her believe Celeste was the outsider when he was the one running from his past. Amber folded the letters carefully. She knew what she had to do now. Amber confronted her father with the stack of unopened letters. She didn't yell, didn't accuse. She simply placed them on his desk and said, "You owe both of us the truth." Raymond looked down at the familiar handwriting, his face pale. For a long time he didn't speak. Then, barely above a whisper, he said, "I thought it was too late, that trying to fix it would only make it worse." Amber shook her head. "So you let me hate her, let me tear her apart. For what? Your pride?" His eyes filled with tears. "I was afraid, Amber. Afraid you'd never forgive me if you knew I once abandoned someone. That you'd see me as a coward." She was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, "And now?" He sighed. "Now I see the damage fear causes." Amber didn't forgive him then. Not yet. But the wall between them began to show cracks. She asked him to talk to Celeste, to be honest. Not for himself, but for Elias. That boy had lived in the shadows long enough. Raymond nodded. "You're right, he deserves to know the truth." The family gathered in the living room. Amber, Raymond, Celeste, and for the first time, Elias. The boy had been brought to the estate by Celeste that afternoon and he had no idea what to expect. He sat silently, staring wide-eyed at Raymond, the man he had only seen in photographs or heard about in bedtime stories. Raymond got down on one knee, facing Elias directly. "I owe you more than an apology," he began, voice trembling. "I owe you a life. I missed everything, and I won't pretend words can fix it. But I want to start being your father, if you'll let me." Elias, confused but curious, looked at Celeste. She gave a tiny nod. Slowly he reached out and took Raymond's hand. The moment was small, quiet, but powerful. Amber watched from the corner. For the first time in months, something in her chest loosened. This family wasn't perfect, it never had been. But maybe perfection wasn't the goal anymore. Maybe healing was. That night she knocked on Celeste's door again, but not to argue. Just to talk, and Celeste welcomed her without hesitation. Amber stood at the edge of the garden, watching the sunrise. The house behind her had changed. There were no more lies echoing through its halls, no more silent glances packed with accusation. For the first time in what felt like forever, she could breathe. Celeste approached quietly. Amber didn't flinch this time. "I'm sorry," Amber said, her voice barely above a whisper. "For everything. I let jealousy take over. I wanted to believe you were the villain because it was easier than accepting what my father had done." Celeste didn't respond right away. She looked out at the horizon, the orange glow softening her features. "You were grieving. It's not your fault." Amber turned to her. "I still hurt you. I made this home unbearable. You didn't deserve that." Celeste finally looked at her. "Maybe not. But I stayed because I believed we could be something better, not perfect, just honest." Amber nodded. She reached out and hugged her stepmother. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't cinematic, it was real, and for now that was enough. The war was over, not because one side won but because both sides had laid down their weapons. The days that followed were quieter, gentler. Awkward moments filled the air, missteps in conversation, long pauses, small misunderstandings. But for the first time everyone was trying. Amber and Elias started spending time together. At first it was cautious, a board game here, a short walk there. He was shy, thoughtful, and intelligent beyond his years. Amber saw in him the innocence she'd lost too soon. Celeste remained careful. She never overstepped, never pushed Amber into accepting a motherly presence. But her quiet support, her presence, was constant. She made space for everyone to find their place without forcing anything. Slowly, Amber began to admire her strength. Raymond, too, was changing. He took responsibility not only with Elias, but also with Amber. He talked more openly about the past, about his regrets, about the kind of man he wanted to become. For Amber, hearing him own his flaws made him feel more human, and paradoxically, more fatherly than ever before. Their family wasn't a traditional one, and maybe it never would be, but it was real, and that was enough. Amber began journaling again, something she hadn't done since her mother died. It helped her process the messiness, the healing, and the strange, beautiful evolution of their home. One weekend, Amber decided to reopen a part of the house she had shut away for over a year, her mother's old art studio. It had remained untouched since her death. The door creaked open like a time capsule. The scent of turpentine and oil paint hit her immediately, followed by a wave of grief. But instead of closing it again, she stayed. She invited Celeste inside the next day. They sat on the floor surrounded by old canvases and unfinished sketches. Amber spoke about her mother for hours, not out of pain this time, but love. She shared how her mother used to hum while she painted, how she'd cover Amber's nose in paint just to make her laugh, how she loved thunderstorms. Celeste listened without interruption, sometimes smiling, sometimes tearing up. She didn't try to compare herself or take up space in those memories. She simply honored them with her silence. At the end, Amber said, "She would have liked you, you know." Celeste looked down, her voice barely audible. "I hope one day I can earn the right to believe that." Amber didn't say anything. She just reached out and took her hand. In that moment, past and present weren't at war anymore. They were beginning to coexist. One evening, Elias approached Amber while she was setting the table. He shuffled awkwardly, clearly working up the courage to speak. "Amber," he asked, "are you my sister now?" The question stunned her. She put down the plates and looked at him. His eyes were wide, vulnerable, hoping for a kind answer. She knelt in front of him. "I don't think there's a right or wrong way to be family. But yes, if you want me to be your sister, I'd be proud." He grinned, small and crooked, and nodded. "I want that." From that night on, something shifted between them. Amber became protective in a new way, not out of anger but out of love. She'd spent so long hating the idea of sharing her father, fearing there wouldn't be enough love to go around. But Elias had never asked for much, just a place in the world where he belonged. Amber now wanted to help him find it. Her heart, once hardened by grief and jealousy, had started to soften, not erase the pain but grow around it. Months passed, spring returned, bright and full of color. The Hartley estate, once a place of cold resentment and buried secrets, had transformed. On a sunny afternoon, Raymond suggested something unthinkable a year ago, a family portrait. He booked a photographer and insisted everyone dress up. It felt silly to Amber at first, but when she saw her father straighten Elias's collar, when she saw Celeste adjust Amber's necklace, the one she thought she'd lost, something inside her settled. The photo was taken in the garden. They all stood together, not perfectly posed but comfortably close. Amber rested her hand gently on Elias's shoulder. Celeste stood beside Raymond, smiling. Not the practiced smile Amber used to mistrust, but one of genuine warmth. When the photographer showed them the preview, Amber saw something that shocked her. She was smiling too. Later that night, the photo was printed and placed in the hallway, beside an old portrait of Amber with her mother. Two different moments, two different families, and somehow both completely hers. She didn't feel like she was betraying her mother anymore. She was carrying her love forward, and now there was room for more. A year after Celeste moved in, Amber sat in the same bedroom where she once made a vow to destroy her. Back then, she believed love was limited, finite, that if someone new came in, someone had to be pushed out, that stepmothers were invaders, that fathers couldn't make mistakes and still be loved. But she had learned something different. Family wasn't about blood or roles or perfect behavior. It was about showing up again and again. About choosing love when it's hard and truth when it hurts. She still missed her mother. That would never change, but her heart no longer burned with anger. It held a quiet gratitude. because somehow, through all the lies, the heartbreak, the mistakes, they had found each other. As the sun set outside, she watched her father laughing in the garden with Elias and Celeste. Her family, complicated, unexpected, flawed, but hers. Amber picked up her journal, opened a fresh page, and wrote, "The war is over, and I've finally made peace with who I am and who we are. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think differently about love and family, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this one."